So it's interesting that you can talk about CO2 or carbon dioxide emissions from gasoline. We can also talk about from electricity, but we'll make that our next video. So one thing to think about is that there are 19.8 pounds of CO2 produced by burning 1 gallon of gasoline. So we can talk about how much CO2 is emitted in different situations. So this is the identity ratio that we will use when talking about CO2 emissions from gasoline. So let's do some examples here. We'll start easy. You use 12 gallons of gas each week. So how much CO2 is emitted? Now we're going to use the factor label method just like we did for other conversions, and that we're starting with 12 gallons. So I have 12 gallons. And I want to know how much CO2. So anytime you're dealing with how much CO2, you're thinking about the identity ratio 19.8 pounds over 1 gallon of gas. Now remember, that also means we could use 1 gallon over 19.8 pounds. I'm just throwing this out there because remember, every identity ratio can be flipped. It doesn't matter what's on the top, what's on the bottom, because it's equivalent. Now for our case, as we move down into this problem, we do need gallons in the denominator. So you can see that we need them in the top and the bottom so that the units cancel out. So I have 19.8 pounds over 1 gallon of gas. Now as we work through this, right, the gallons cancel out, things are in the numerator, so we just multiply 12 times 19.8, and we end up with 237.6 pounds of CO2. And that's kind of the basic down and dirty question on this one. Now we're going to get to two more that are a little bit trickier. So your tank, so let's talk about gas tank, holds 32 liters. So perhaps you are, driving in Canada where they deal with metrics. So your tank holds 32 liters. How many pounds of CO2 are produced when you burn the entire tank of gasoline? Okay. So we know CO2 is 19.8 pounds over 1 gallon. Well, that's great and all, but we're in liters, not gallons. So that has to be our first step. So we're going to start with 32 liters, and we need to change liters into gallons. So as I like to say, we have to jump across the pond. Now, we can't jump liters straight to gallons, but we can jump from liters to quarts. So I need liters in the bottom, so they cancel out. Quarts will be in the top. So I know that 1 quart is 0.9464 liters. So that process right there makes my liters go away. Now my units is quarts, which is great. I enjoy a good quart, but we need to be in gallons. So I put quarts in the bottom again so they cancel out. And I know that quarts can go to gallon. So 4 quarts is 1 gallon. So now my quarts cancel out and I'm in gallons. Whew, that's good because I need gallons so that I can do my final piece of 19.8 pounds is 1 gallon of gas. Again, I need the gallons to be in the bottom in that last identity ratio so that they cancel out. Now I'm ready to do my math. So I start with 32. I divide because the number is in the denominator, 0.9464. I divide by 4 because it's in the bottom, and then I multiply by 19.8. So when I do that, I come up with an answer of 167.37 pounds of CO2. Now, notice I'm not real picky on my rounding right now. I'm really just focused on the content, like getting the right numbers down. All right, let's do one more. And this one might need you to think through a little bit differently here. Okay, so your new car gets 52 miles per gallon. It's pretty good. How much CO2 is emitted per mile? Okay, so I want to just think through what we have first. So we have 52 miles per 1 gallon, because remember, per means fraction bar. Now that's what we start with. What we want to end with, how much CO2, that is pounds per mile. Okay, so this over here on the right is our goal. We want pounds in the top, miles in the bottom. Okay, so we know our goal, we know where we start. Let's get there. So, what do we know? Well, we know 19.8 pounds is the same as 1 gallon. So if I look at what I start with, I know that to get rid of gallons, I put them in the top. Okay, that means pounds go on the bottom. So 1 gallon is 19.8 pounds. So when I do that, my gallons disappear, and now I have 52 miles over 19.8 pounds, right? I just multiplied straight across. 52 times 1 is 52, my units is miles. 1 times 19.8 is 19.8, my units is pounds. Now the problem is, look at our units. They're flipped. Is that good? Is that bad? What does that mean? Well, remember, we're talking about identity ratios. So we are basically saying that 52 miles is the same as 19.8 pounds. That's what we're saying here. So what we can do is say, well, that means 19.8 pounds is the same as 52 miles. Okay, so we can just flip it. And now when we divide 19.8 divided by 52, we get 0.38 pounds of CO2 per mile. And if you're thinking right now, that makes no sense why you can do that. Well, let me do this a different way, okay? I want to show you this same problem. If we start with 52 miles per gallon, okay? So we're saying 52 miles is 1 gallon. That's the same as saying, well, let's start with 1 gallon is 52 miles, right? That's an identity ratio. We are given that 52 miles is the same as 1 gallon. So then if we take our 19.8 pounds over 1 gallon of gas, my gallons cancels out and I'm left with 19.8 pounds over 52 miles. Same thing. And then we divide and we get that same answer of 0.38 pounds per mile. So it works that way because we are talking about rates, because we are talking about identity ratios. Since all of these numerator denominators, they equal, it doesn't matter what's on the top or the bottom. They're the same, right? It goes back to the idea that if we have 12 inches over 1 foot, or 1 foot over 12 inches, it's still the same thing. It's just feet per inches or inches per foot. It's same thing. Okay, so that's why it works in that case. Okay, so that is CO2 with gasoline.